Ladies and gentlemen, DBNA Television is proud to bring you a Roar Media production, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. If you do not know him, you better Google him. He was a high school Hall of Famer, school record holder, 10-time letter winner. He was just a boy with a ball and a young man with visions of greatness from the land of Hoosiers. When his playing days were over, he wanted to give back to the game that provided him purpose. He had found his passion on the hardwood. 14 years college coaching, multiple regional and conference championships, multiple national rank programs, coached the National Player of the Year. Winning followed him to 15 seasons professional coaching, multiple championships, multiple Coach of the Year honors, near 780 win percentage. He placed over 100 players to their respected national teams that represented their countries at the World Championships and Olympic Games. He has coached current and former NBA stars. His purpose is now to serve, empower, inspire. Here he is, host of the Coach Scott Field Show. Make some noise, show some love. Host Scott Field.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter where you're watching us from around the globe, I say thank you for allowing us into your homes and most importantly, into your hearts. If you're watching us today on the DBNA network, a sincere thank you. And please continue to support this network, the sponsors, and the amazing talent and shows that are on this network. If you're listening to us in podcast form, Brian and I, we say, hey, turn that knob up and let us put that flavor in your ear. We're here to inspire you. We're here to empower you. And I implore you to share this content because today's guest is like no other. I'm excited to share with you today on the Coach Scott Field Show. I've got my man BG, Brian Grant. Most of you will know him from his 12-year NBA career. Second all-time leading scorer in Xavier basketball history. His number 33 has been retired. BG has spent time with the Sacramento Kings. He spent time with the Portland Trailblazers. He spent time with the Heat, Lakers, and the Suns. But most importantly, his foundation, his charity work. He was the 1999 J. Walter Kennedy Citizenship Award winner, which he's done charity work in communities where he's played throughout his career. And I have nothing but admiration and respect for that, BG. So nothing but love for you there. This man, AKA the General, because he's a Midwest boy just like myself, and he's all about those grants out there in Ohio. So BG, welcome to the Coach Scott Field Show. Really appreciate your time. A quick shout out to Elijah, your son, who sent me the copy of your book. Brian is also the author, along with Rick Bucher, of the book Rebound. And we're going to discuss the book. We're going to discuss his career. But Brian, thank you so much for being so selfless and having a servant heart like you've always had to be a guest on our show today.
Well, thank you for having me. Before we get started, I just want to say one thing. I'm a big fan of R&B quiet storms that come on from 10 o'clock to midnight. And I'm going to tell you something. When you came in with that intro all nice and smooth, I was like, is this cat the guy from the Quiet Storm? I mean, you right there. Nice and smooth, man.
Hey, I appreciate the love right there. You know what? We have a lot of fun doing what we do, BG. And I'm a big music guy, and I'm actually an R&B ballad guy. And I think that's how I hooked my wife to marry me, because I know it wasn't for my looks.
Well, you definitely got that smooth operator going, man.
I appreciate you,
Definitely.
man. Well, BG, let's get right into this. I mean, you've had an amazing career. There with the Xavier Musketeers, grew up in southern Ohio near the Ohio River. You got to play for just a guy that had so much respect, Coach Pete Gillen. When I say Coach Gillen, what does that name mean to you?
Just a stand-up blue-collar guy, from Brooklyn and Irish. And, the thing about Coach Gillen, he was more than a coach. He was more of a mentor and a coach. He talked to us as players, but then he'd also be straight up with us and telling us, you guys are running around the campus. You got to watch yourself. You got a target on your back. Anything you do is going to be elevated 10 times. You got to be careful. I mean, he was, I really learned a lot from him.
You know what though? But that's just facts, and that's just his way of showing that he cared about you as people and players, and he wanted the best for you and set you guys on a path to have successful careers. And I mean, you played with 3 or 4 NBA guys while you're there with Xavier, but man, come on, second all-time leading scorer in Xavier Musketeer history. Your number 33 has been retired there. What did that mean to you to have that jersey retired there with the Musketeers?
I'm in everything, you know, especially being able to come back home after I retired and have my mother alongside me and my father. Uh, it was just, it was kind of like a closing a chapter out. Like that chapter was still kind of open, and then when they retired my number, it kind of closed the chapter. And then a bunch of my teammates showed up too, which I wasn't expecting, and really was surprised and very heartfelt.
Well, you know what? You're the kind of guy that you're people oriented. You have that servant heart, as we talked about. And I heard you mention your mom and dad. Even in your book, so much of that book is about family and relationships and memories with your family. And I mean, you have several children, and I know how much it means to you and how much those children mean to you.
They do. I mean, they're everything. And like you said, we were thanking Elijah for sending the book out. He's been my point of contact through this whole book release, and it's something to be able to work with one of your kids and look at them. One minute you're looking at them, they're a little kid. Next thing you know, they're kind of this medium-sized kid, and then you don't look for a while, and then turn back and they're men. You know, they're men or young women. So yeah, my kids, they're my caregivers. They're the reason I am here.
Wow, you know what? That touches my heart to hear you say that. I actually got out of coaching when my wife and I adopted a son from the Compton Long Beach area, and he's now just finished his 3rd year playing professionally overseas. But to sit back and be that role model and that father figure and mentor for him to see where he's at, I know what it's got to mean to you to see your kids have the success that they're having in whatever walk of life that they have. Because I'm going to tell you something, Brian, you've got to be so proud because Elijah, he responded to every text, every email. He made sure that I had a copy of the book, and you've got to be so proud of a guy who grabs the bull by the horns and says, you know what, let's do this foundation proud. And I know you've got to be proud of that foundation.
I'm very proud of it, and very proud of him and his brothers and sisters. They're all the same. You know, they give them a response, give them something to be responsible about, and you kind of wait to see if they're going to show up or not show up, or am I going to have to do it? But with these kids, I haven't had to show up unless they just had a question about it. But Lige, with this book, I mean, he's talking to people from all over the country, actually all over the world, trying to set these things up with no real experience, but just using pure grit and determination, and then asking when he needs help.
Man, that's you say you've got to be so proud. I mean, we talking about, you being, the father figure and what your kids mean to you. I mean, you got Amani, Elijah, Jaden, Jonathan, and Brian, and then you got Malia and Anaya. I mean, I know they mean the world to you.
And Maxwell,
And Maxwell, I'm sorry.
little
Yeah.
Max,
Yeah,
yeah,
a little
little
bit.
Max. Now they do. It's 6 boys and 2 girls, and my 4 of my boys are all over 20, 21 years old.
Wow.
2 girls they'll be 18 and 19 on May 20th and 21st. They're what you call those Irish twins, or they were very close. I can remember remember after having our first daughter, my wife come back crying. I was like, "What's wrong?" She said, "I'm pregnant again." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Ah." Yeah, but we had a night, and she's been a blessing.
Wow.
They've all been blessings.
Oh, I just think it's wonderful. And, I think of kids and what kids mean. And BG, you know this, the older we get, my grandfather used to always tell me it goes by quick the older you get. And I'm like, well, how does it go by quicker? Because it's still 24 hours in a day. But I'm telling you something, you blink and it's like a decade is gone. And these kids grow up so fast.
They grow up really fast, and I can definitely speak on what your grandfather was telling you. It just I can't believe I'll be 50 years old next year this time, if I make it to this time. 50, I was just 25.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I got to remind my mind, like, we're not 25. We really are about to be 50. And guess
I,
what? The body knows. It's the mind that doesn't know.
And see, you just mentioned that, and I know we just talked about it off the air, but I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis back in 1987 that ended my playing career. And I'm sitting here right now with a big old boot after a surgery. And so, yeah, your mind says go, but sometimes, as you all well know, the body says no. And you were diagnosed in 2008, I believe, with your Parkinson's disease. Take us through what that felt like when you had to try to process the diagnosis and how you processed it and what that meant to you mentally, spiritually, and physically.
Well, I kind of knew there was something going on, and everything that I was reading up on or investigating was leading to Parkinson's, which I was hoping that it wasn't, but I kind of thought that it was leaning towards that way. But it wasn't until I actually went into the doctor's office and sat down, and he told me that I had young onset Parkinson's, that it became a reality. Now it's not just a tremor, or it's not just 9 months of hardcore depression. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why these things are happening. And so I I would say I didn't really process it there that day. I think it took me like about 2 or 3 weeks, and then it hit me, and then fear kind of came over me, like, am I going to be around for my kids? And you know, he told me most Parkinson's patients don't die from Parkinson's. They die from falling or tripping or hitting their head, or swallowing too fast, things like that. Ways I don't want to go either, but it was nice to know that if I live a productive life and try to stay in front of it as much as I can, I can live a lot of years.
Yeah, and
So,
and I know God's not finished with you yet. You've got such a powerful platform. You have your foundation. You recently had a gala. Where can people, if they're interested, when they watch this content, and we're going to share this content, where can people get in contact with the Brian Grant Foundation so that they can donate to this wonderful cause?
you can reach us at briangrant.org. Briangrant.org. That's the foundation's website, and there's instructions on there for you to be able to donate, or to be able to look over our programs to see what it is that we do with nutrition and exercise.
Yeah, let's talk about that because myself, even with rheumatoid arthritis, there's certain things that I can and can't eat. I have to be very strict with my diet. And of course, to be able to get out and exercise to trigger those, the dopamine and the endorphins as we did as a player like
Yeah.
yourself. Talk about the importance of that with your diagnosis.
Uh, it's very important. And the thing about Parkinson's is everyone's so different. You can have the same symptoms and be taking the same meds, but the meds are going to affect everybody. It might be one person and you have some similarities, but there'll still be differences because the brain is made up. It's so complex. It knows what it needs, and everyone's pretty much unique. When there's no dopamine, or the dopamine producing cells are at less than 20%, by the time you find out that you have Parkinson's, almost 80% of those dopamine producing cells are already gone.
Wow.
So, you know, um, it's very important to try to help the body build itself back up as much as you can. Uh, we don't know why Parkinson's occurs, or MS, or Alzheimer's, dementia, ALS, but they're all in the same part of the brain. And once we figure it out and we're able to turn that off, or turn something off or on, or have some kind of procedure that stops the degeneration of the brain, then that'll be the closest thing we have to a cure. But we still haven't gotten there yet. Still haven't
Yeah.
got.
And that's why you work so feverishly to raise money for research to try to find how they can control it. Because again, it's never really going to be in remission, but if you can get it controlled and help the side effects or the tremors or maybe some of the fogginess of the brain, kind of talk a little bit about that and the medications that you've had to go through to try to get things under control for you.
Yeah, I've been through different medications over the years. trying something, see if it works. Now this makes me too sleepy. This makes me a little too amped up.
Yeah.
As far as what we do for the Parkinson's community, our very first gala, we raised $450,000, which we turned
Wow.
over to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for research. Where we wanted to find our niche in this is through exercise and nutrition, showing people how to be proactive about their disease, because so many people, and I'm guilty of it. It happened to me over COVID. I got lazy, and I ended up putting on what I'm calling the infamous COVID 2023.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I am active and I am watching what I eat and watching the types of exercises I'm doing, you just can't go out there and pump all this weight like I used to be able to. I've got to be smart about it and make sure I'm, working on muscles that are opening me up, because Parkinson's will close you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and see, and I think that's great that you know your body, you know what your body's telling you. But for those out there who aren't in tune with their body or what their body's telling them, what are some of the signals that they should look for, or what kind of questions, or what's the mindset that you need to overcome that? Because we're all guilty of having depression and having mental illnesses of some sort. But when you have a diagnosis like what you have, it amplifies that tenfold. So kind of share that with them, Brian.
Well, for me, being a professional athlete, I'm used to training, but I'm used to training all out, all or nothing. And that's been a big change. That's where the change has got to take place in me. I still haven't mastered it yet. I'll get going and I'll start off light. A couple weeks go by, I'm not seeing results like I think I should be. So I ramp it up. Next thing you know, I done pulled a quad, or, tweak the hamstring, or something's pulled, the shoulder's torn. And then I got to go back to square one, and I got to take more time off. And that means more cookies and ice cream and milk.
Yeah.
But you just got to be in tune with your body, because you want to look at how is Parkinson's affecting me. Is tremor is what's the bad thing for me. If I'm not medicated, I'm very tremorous. But there are some people who don't have tremor. They're just very stiff and rigid, where they actually freeze. And so it's like two different types of Parkinson's. And then you have other Parkinson's, like Utah coach.
Yeah. And you know what? I know what you're trying to say, because
Yeah.
again, there's that fogginess, the tremors, sometimes the forgetfulness. But my man, I understand, and I have nothing but empathy, because again, being diagnosed in 1987 myself, my disease was triggered by an oral polio vaccine. So kind of like yourself, I went from being a Hall of Fame player to being bedfast for 9 months, where I had to battle the depression. I had to battle all types of self-doubt. And I was probably the closest thing to an atheist that you could find, because I'm like, why would God do this to me? Now, of course, as I'm older, I understand those tests can be our testimonies, but those tests also, show what our true character is. And for you to sit here and be on this show with us today, you're showing the courage, you're showing the bravery, and you're showing what is real. So I appreciate your vulnerabilities and your boldness to show what this disease can be.
There are worse things you and I could be dealing with out there. And
Amen.
I'm grateful and thankful that the Lord has put me in this position to be able to have a platform to reach other people.
God bless you,
Both of
BG.
us.
I 100% I agree. And the fact that we're able to use this platform today to build awareness to a disease, to build awareness to your foundation, to build awareness to this outstanding book. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Grant wrote this book, Rebound. And if you saw this guy play in his 12-year career, he was a two-way player, and man, he was undersized most of the time, but he's also rebounding from a traumatic diagnosis that, as a professional athlete, you're not really prepared for that. So talk about the motivation behind the book, Brian.
It was something that I've thought about for a while, for a long time. I can always remember being on planes later in my career where I wasn't playing as much, sitting next to somebody, and we'd talk about our past history and coming up and how we got to this point. And I can remember almost everyone I told looked at me like, for real? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, man, this is what happened. He goes, man, yeah, that's a book. That's unbelievable. I said, it's the truth. And so I always knew that I wanted to write about that side of it, but it took me some time. It took me growing up a little bit and maturing to be able to say to myself, okay, if I'm going to tell my story, I can't just tell part of it. I have to tell it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when I got to that point, that's when I was ready to get started. And then I interviewed a couple of ghostwriters, and then found out that Rick was a ghostwriter, and I had worked with him. He was the one that actually announced that I had Parkinson's when he was with ESPN. So it was a perfect fit.
Well, I tell you what, I've spent the last 5 days delving into the book, and I took some amazing excerpts out of it, and some of the things that you talk about, your career, like you say, the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys. You share it all. You peel that layer of the onion so well, and I really encourage people to go out and get that book. Where can they find the book, Brian? Where can they purchase it?
They can go to Amazon Books. I think if you Google Brian Grant Rebound, there should be other things that come up other than Amazon, but mainly Amazon is the one where most people are getting the book, are able to
Yeah.
order it.
I tell you what, I really encourage people to go out because, again, it's soaring in the NBA, battling Parkinson's, and finding out what really matters. Rick Bucher with ESPN, just a phenomenal journalist, and he took such pride in sharing your story. He was intimidated because he didn't feel he could do your story justice. And how did it come across to where you chose him and like, hey, you're my guy. Let's do this together to build awareness to what this disease is.
Yeah, that was one part of it, and I knew that he'd be all right with that. He'd do well with that. But an area that he had on everybody else is he's from Cincinnati.
It-
you
it-
know,
yeah.
I'm from an hour east of Cincinnati. So when I talk about the culture and everything back home, he perfectly and he understands. He doesn't need to go do any research. He grew up in it, and just talking with him, we spoke for a few minutes, and then it was just I immediately said, all right, I want to do this with you. And he told me, listen, if we want to do this, you got to make sure you make time for me, so that we're not working on this thing 3 or 4 years. And we ended up getting a lot of time, because of COVID.
Right.
Talking over the phone, a lot of it was done over the phone. He actually came back home to Georgetown, to my hometown. I took him down to the Ripley courts
Oh, wow.
and he's like, man, this is like a cage. I was like, man, my face got smashed into that fence so many times. I can't even count. But he just, it's like once he grabbed hold of the story, he just went with it. Without me having to lead him, he just kind of felt his way through it. And I was lucky to have him be able to do this book.
Well, the collaboration is masterful. The way that you guys articulate and share your stories, share your journey, Brian, it's a great read. And I implore everybody to go out there and get on Amazon and find Rebound and let Brian, share that story just as he is with us here today. I just think it was heartfelt. But there's so much passion and there's purpose behind it. Kind of talk where that purpose comes from, Brian.
Um, just wanted to, I mean, there was telling the story of my successful career was one side of it, but another side of it was just showing that there's a lot that happens in a story. That's a fairy tale story making it to the NBA. I never thought I would make it. I didn't even know I was going to college. And then making it to the NBA, having some success, things like that. But it's all the stuff that's going on around it, which I feel you can't have a story unless you put that stuff in there too. The ups and downs, not being mature enough to be monogam, to be in a relationship solely with my wife and making mistakes along the way. Uh, but also having this book as a platform to reach out to people with Parkinson's, but also to kind of heal myself and make my apologies to those people that needed apologies.
Wow. See, and to me, Brian, that is such character and such class to be able to openly have that dialogue and share that the way that you did. And again, that's why I have the utmost respect for you as the person. Yeah, yeah. Loved watching you play because you were such a warrior and you never backed down and you had that competitive spirit. And I mean, you brought an undersized two-way player to the game to where now a Kenneth Fareed who comes in and now a Montrezl Harrell is doing some great things, kind of like what you did. And it's like you opened that door and created a pathway not to be a tweener where you could be a 5 or you could be a 4. And I'll tell you what, Brian, it's just phenomenal. I want to go back and talk a little bit about your career. Drafted, of course, by the Sacramento Kings. And you think about your draft class. I mean, the big dog, Glenn Robinson and Jason Kidd and Grant Hill. And, you were picked right before Eric Montrose. What was it like going through that process and all of a sudden hearing your name to where now this unfathomable dream becomes a reality and now you're being drafted into the league with the best players in the world?
First of all, I learned not to trust too many people when they would tell me good things like, "Oh, this is going to happen for you. You're not going to be around." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I didn't want to set myself up for the letdown, so I didn't believe it. And I can remember my agent Mark Bartelstein calling me and saying, "Hey, I sent tickets for you guys to come to the draft." I'm like, "We're not going." He goes, "But you're going to be drafted." And I go, "I know, but I'd rather spend it with my family." He goes, "Okay." So I stayed in Cincinnati and we rented a place out, and just having everybody there, I can tell you this. I knew I was supposed to get drafted, but I had fear, and I don't even think I put this in the book. Had fear that what if I put all this together and my name doesn't get called?
Mm.
And then all those people that were like, you played good in college, but you'll never make the NBA. You played good here, but you'll never. And I'm just like constantly kicking and clawing, trying to get my way out the barrel. But, when that sixth pick got picked and my cell phone rang, I ran, back into the other room where there was no one at. And it was Travis Stanley from the Sacramento Kings saying, "Are you ready to be a King?" And I go, "What?" He says, "Yeah, we're taking you at 8th. If they don't take you at 7th, we're taking you at 8th. And I was like, "Oh my God." He said, "Don't tell anybody." So I came back in the room and I go, "They just called, we're going 15th. And everybody was like, "Ah!" My mom doing her little fake pass out.
Wow.
So everybody's being rowdy, and the 7th pick is finished, and the 8th pick is coming on. I was like, "Hey, hold on, let's see what they say." And one of my cousins looked at me like he knew. And sure enough, man, in the 1994 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Brian Grant, and it was just like,
Wow.
I mean, a year ago, prior to that, if you'd asked me what I'd be doing, I'd have said, I hope I'll be working at Procter and Gamble or General Electric or Grippo Potato Chip, somewhere, nice entry level job, build myself up, and then be able to move, out west or something. But I would have bet against myself as far as saying that I'd have been drafted, let alone in the first round, and then just miraculously a lottery pick. It was
Well,
just a miracle.
yeah, you think about that pick. Take us through that gamut of emotions. I mean, I think it's wonderful that you were there and you shared it with your family. But when you knew and you heard your name get called, take us to that moment to people who don't get to live that moment. Take us to those feelings, take us to those emotions and what it was like. And who was the first person you hugged?
Uh, well, it had to be my mom. Well, she grabbed me. She grabbed me and had me down like this. And then her brother, my Uncle John, who taught me how to play, who had worked his way on the couch and kind of scooted my dad over, he was hugging in like that. But, it's something I just realized that I never put in a book, and I think I should have, was that I know a lot of guys who get drafted that high. They know they're going to get drafted, things like that. So they're like, oh, I can't wait to get out there and start crushing. I felt like it was scary. It was like I just made it to the NBA, but oh my gosh, what if they find out that I don't belong? Because in my mind's eye, I didn't really think I belonged. Even though I'd had a good camp and things like that, but it was almost like, oh, they're gonna find out that I don't really belong here now. And it was
Wow.
just having that fear, having that little bit of fear in the back was that extra boost that I needed when times got tough. Like, okay, we're gonna prove them wrong. We're gonna prove them wrong.
I like
Yeah.
it. So, what was it, a fear, or was it like a chip on his shoulder to say, I'm going to prove you made the right decision by taking me at that number? I'm better than these guys and I can compete with those guys. What was that mind shift for you once you got there and once you're like, you know what? I know I can contribute to this franchise.
Well, I mean, it all started by moving out there in the summertime. I went to Salvation Army where there were pickup games with college players and NBA players and stuff. When I walked in, I mean, if I'd have been like some really tough, hard dude, I'd have probably been in about 3 or 4 fights because people were real disrespectful. They're like, "Who's that bum? They drafted a bum," saying it loud so I can hear it. And I'm just like walking, I'm sitting down. My cousin said, "Man, you want to leave?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "They're all talking stuff." I say, "Fuel, baby. They just fueling the tank."
I
Now,
like it.
somebody talks mess. I love that. I just went out there the first game. They weren't gonna pick me up, and Mitch Richmond was like, he's the rookie. Somebody got to pick him. So I got picked, and after dunking 2 or 3 times once was on our center, Dwayne Coswell, and then some other cats. Everybody was like, "Man, this cat where did he come from?" It was almost a good thing that nobody knew because they come out and they get lippy and then put it on them. Then it was like, "Oh man, hey man, good job, man, good job, good pick."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you earned that respect. And you mentioned Mitch Richmond, who had a phenomenal career.
Mhm.
Who was really the first guy who kind of took you under the wing and taught you how to be a pro? I know Gary St. Jean was your coach, but who was the player that said, "Hey, come on, young man, let's teach you how to do this, how to take care of your body, how to manage your time, and how to get, how to take care of yourself?" Because there's a huge transition from a 30 game schedule at Xavier to now playing an 82 game regular season.
Yeah.
Who taught you how to be a pro?
You know what? My first year, Dwayne Coswell and Walt Williams were my vets, and they
Walt
were just the
Williams.
coolest because
Yeah.
they were younger, and Walt had the high socks and talk like this, and Dwayne was like, "Come on, Rook, what? You ain't got my coffee, man. Put a little more sugar in it." So as far as just when we'd be on the road and everything, they ended up getting me a pair of shoes at Freedman's because I was a good rookie, and things that teams do that still have rookies. But Mitch, not that he took me under his wing, but when I'd go to our workouts, I would just watch and be like, "Why are you doing that?" He goes, "Oh, I do that. He gets in the jacuzzi for about 2 minutes, gets out, gets in the cold tank
Ooh,
for a
that
couple minutes."
contrast.
Yeah, and he's like, "Man, you got to take care of your body, man, because I'm not young like you no more." And I was like, "But you be out there killing." He goes, "Yeah, but I've had to work on it though." So he would talk to you if you wanted to talk to him about it. And so I would have to say it was Mitch. And I mean, Rock, he was just hard out there, man. He's
I
very,
love
very tough player.
love those stories. And you played for some great coaches. I mean, you were with Mike Dunleavy, you were with Coach Pat Riley with the Heat, Rudy T with your year with the Lakers with Kobe, but then also Mike D'Antoni. What were some of the things that you took from each of those coaches? So let's just say Coach St. Jean, what did he teach you?
Oh man, I'm trying to think of what it was he always said. He's from Boston. Hey man, I just gotta tell you, it's a beautiful day, man. Everything was beautiful with him, even when it was wrong. And I remember one time our plane, our plane didn't show up because I don't think the owners paid the bill or something like that. And he's like, "Damn it, no plane again. This ain't beautiful." Or something. He was just Coach St. Jean. Like as I started rolling and really started rolling, he says, "I tell you, man, we knew we were picking when we picked you, but man, I tell you might have exceeded our expectations. And so it was good to compliment me, not in a way where I'm gonna get a big head though. You know, it was like, you're doing good, just keep doing it. And then I'd be like, Michael's doing good too. And he's like, Michael is one of the biggest surprises. Michael Smith. I mean, when they put us in there, it was like two pit bulls jumping in the game. We was going at it. And yeah, so Saint, you know, just imparted some knowledge. He was a great coach to have as a rookie. Like I try to think about other coaches that if I'd had them as rookies, oh my God.
Been a whole different field for you, huh?
Yeah, different. Would have been way different.
Then how about when like you go to Portland and now you got Coach Dunleavy, and I mean, come on, you were with Arvydas Sabonis and a young Jermaine O'Neal. What was that culture like? Because I mean, you call Portland home now, so it had to be meaningful to you.
That's very meaningful. I mean, that's not because of the players. That's because of the community. I just love the people. I mean, the way they loved their Blazers was the reason why when I knew my shoulder was tore up, that I could not sit out the season, because they would never, ever respect me for being the player that came in, that even if I had anything to do with it or not, Buck left, Clyde left, Jerome left, Chris left, Mark Bryant. I mean, it wasn't going to happen, bro. That's why I was like, man, I'm playing through this.
Wow.
But Mike Dunleavy, I don't think that guy gets enough credit for what he did during those 3 years there. I mean, you forget about J.R. Ryder, Jimmy Jackson, Damon Stoudemire, and then we had Steve Smith, Scotty, Detlef, Sabonis, me, Jermaine. I mean, we had so much talent. You couldn't be a soft coach in that environment. You just couldn't. And I tell you, we all had a level of respect for Mike. You know, we respect him as a coach, but we had a level of respect for him as a person too, because he'll let you keep going with something, but then when you cross the line, he's like, "What's up? Let's go. What you want to do?" You know, I seen him get him up several times. Like, "What you want to do?" Hey, I'm a man before I'm a coach. You know.
Wow.
And we break it up. All right, break it up. And there, I got into it.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
it was just a funny thing. But he juggled that talent around. I mean, when you have a Jermaine O'Neal sitting, not playing ever, and the kid is just killing us in practice. You know, we say, "Yeah, well, I'm tired, man. I played 30-some minutes last night." And it wasn't that. He was just that good. He was that good. But Mike was the type of person, when he trusted somebody, he was going to ride that thing till the wheels fell off. And, you know, when I went out with the microfracture repair after the 99 playoffs, I made it back in 5.5 months, which is unheard of. But I had lost my position, but he still knew he could throw me in the game and trust I was going to go out there and get something done.
Well, there's no doubt about it, because again, you were just that warrior, and I hear that mindset in your stories about, you know, just battling, and so many life lessons through sports carry over into life. And think about how many of those life lessons that you learned in the game that you are now applying to your daily life now, Brian.
Well, I tell you, in the game, I knew I could battle, but I need to be more like that disciplined player. Like, we talk a lot about me guarding Shaquille O'Neal, and I get a lot of respect from people who say, "Man, you played him pretty good," and maybe he would even say that too. But I'm also respectful enough to say that I had to pick and choose my spots. It's not like from the beginning to the end, I played him. No. If I tried to play him those first 2 minutes, I was going to get my hand broke when he dunked the ball through my hand. And, you know, I just kind of let him go and then run him a little bit. And just like anybody, that's a big dude. A lot of muscle requires a lot of oxygen.
That's right. You get gassed if you came out too quick, too strong. So again, you were being cerebral and you were being smart playing the game. So
right.
I admire that.
Yeah, I need to do that now though. But you know, like with my shape and my health and my approach to staying active in a manner that's relevant to my life right now, not back then.
Yeah,
It's
right.
hard. It's hard.
Yep.
It's hard to flip the switch, but definitely have taken lessons
Yeah.
from the game and
Because
brought it.
there is an adaptation. I mean, we can accept what has happened, but we have to adapt to what the reality is and say, okay, my mind says go, but my body's saying no. And where do I push that envelope? And how
Yeah,
can I make that work? Because, we're stubborn, we're hard headed, we got that mindset of being a championship caliber athlete, and we push too hard, but sometimes we just can't.
yeah. We we can't, and then we do, and then we ended with a boot and
Yeah,
a back brace.
Hey, that's that stubborn and hard headedness right there. My wife will tell you. She'll be like, "Babe, you're doing too much." I'm like, "Okay, you're right. You don't want to hear it, but it's true." But talk about too. I mean, gosh, you talk about players that you've battled against. I mean, Karl Malone and Shaquille O'Neal. Tim Duncan called you the hardest working guy in the league. I mean, here's a guy who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame saying Brian Grant is the hardest working player in the league. What did that mean to you when you heard those comments, that respect coming?
I tell you, I hadn't heard it for when he said it. It was much later that I heard it, and someone said that to me. And I said, "No, seriously, Tim said that." And when they were like, "Yeah, man, he's got a lot of respect for you," that right there put that feeling
Wow.
of, you know what? When I battle guys like Tim, I gotta almost make them think that I'm mad at them. Talking what? That's because I don't have much more to go. If he turns around and gets those arms up, he's gonna hit that little soft bank shot every time. Then he can dunk on you. He can rebound on you,
He going to hit that 12-foot mid-range bank shot?
and he's not gonna get tired like Shaq.
Right, the
So
big fundamental, boy.
yeah, so I guess one of the things that ran through my mind was, man, I'm so proud that he said that.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative of it, but man, I know I might have said a lot of foul stuff to his butt when we were out there on the court. Like, what you want? Yeah, I mean, just because I had to get my mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way to go. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Good job." Yeah, it's more like,
Right.
ugh.
Yeah.
So,
Good. You're there to
I,
compete. You're there to
yeah,
compete.
I was, and yeah, I really appreciate him saying that. The Hall of Famer
Wow.
just gave us fits, man.
Right. And then, of course, after playing in Portland, you got to go down and be with the Miami Heat. Coach Pat Riley, who's known for his toughness, he's hard nosed, kind of like, I live in Salt Lake City right now, where Coach Sloan just passed away from a form of Parkinson's disease a little more than a year ago. So may his soul rest in peace. What did it mean to you to go play for a Pat Riley who had that toughness?
Well, you gotta see where I was coming from. I just lost the best opportunity. We had just lost the best opportunity to have a championship if we'd have beat the Lakers in Game 7, which we controlled the whole game until the end. And I knew by looking on everybody's face, I knew how I felt, so I could only imagine how everybody else felt. Like this thing's not gonna hold up. There's a hole in the bottom of the ship, and the bilge pump ain't big enough.
Yeah.
So, I went home back east. I think I visited with New York. Cleveland wanted to talk to me, and then I was on my way to Jamaica with my wife, and my agent said, "Just stop in and see Pat. He just wants to talk to you." I go, "There's no way I'm going to Miami." He goes, "I know that, but you still, when Pat says he wants to talk to you, you should talk to him. You never know when you cross his path again." I said, "Okay." And so they had us up on South Beach at the Delano and this penthouse suite, and I'm just thinking, okay, they're gonna be like, "We need you, we need you." And then when I got there and I met Riley, just sharp as ever, everything's fitting, hair nice and just done. And we started walking through, and there wasn't any of this, "We need you." This is where we're at. This is the arena. This is how we get things done. We work here. He wasn't asking me the whole time to come. It wasn't until the very end when we were finished. He was like, "You have a place to come to. You have a place to come to. We'd love to have you. Thanks for taking
Wow.
the time to come down." And that right there, I was like, man, I could follow that guy, because I was coming from a team where Mike Dunleavy had to juggle people constantly. So people were always ticked off because we had 12 starters.
Right.
You know, everybody felt like they should have been playing more minutes. And if you weren't getting minutes, you were complaining. And it was turmoil, you know, things that I think only Mike could have got the team through. But now there's discipline, one word, one person, one law, and that's his. And that just was super attractive to me. I was just like, wow, man, if I come here, I know what I got to do, who I'm supposed to be on the court, and that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. But they only had a 1 year deal that they could do with me. And so I'm in Jamaica, and the talks with the Trailblazers start to break down. So I just end up telling my wife, man, I think I want to go to Miami. She goes, no, let's go back to Portland. And for her to say, let's go back to Portland, that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
and you think about that culture that Pat Riley has. So basically, what he was telling you is hey, there is a role for you. This is what your role is going to be. You come in and play this amount of minute. He already identified what you could do. You knew within that
absolutely.
framework what you were going to do. So to be a part of a culture where your roles were already identified and you can come in and be Brian Grant and do what Brian Grant does with an Alonzo Mourning and some of those guys, that had to be great just to experience that culture and what he brings with that leadership.
You know, I was going there for the 1 year deal, but it couldn't go through for 30 days. So I had to fly back to Portland after it was announced that I was leaving. And it took me and my wife about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get from our gate to the baggage claim. Just people stopping us. Oh my God, we love you, man. Don't leave.
Oh,
I mean, it was surreal. We
yeah.
both were shocked. And, Pat calls and says, you're not backing out of the deal yet, are you? I said, man, I'm a man of my word. I've made a commitment, and there's people talking mad mess about me, telling me I'm stupid and he must be the dumbest athlete. He said, well, hang in there. So I hung in there, man, and
Wow.
things ended up working out. They ended
Yes,
up
they
working
did.
out.
Yes, they did. And again, you think of Tim Hardaway being down there and Anthony Mason. I mean, again, he brought in that toughness to fit those specific roles and a style of play. And to see you win that mix, I know it had to be hard because it pulled on your heartstrings to what was home for you and had a community there in Portland. But just to be in a Pat Riley culture and learn from that leadership, those are going to be life lessons that you can now pass on to your kids today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Elijah, he remembers some of it. But definitely can pass those life lessons on. Like you said, man. And on top of it, I was Lonzo Mourning at the time before we knew he was sick.
Yeah.
Dan Marley,
Thunder
far
Dan.
away. Bruce Bowen, defensive specialist. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a great team, and I fit right into it. And then all of a sudden, Eddie Jones is there. Anthony Mason, myself. I just wonder what we could have done if Zoe hadn't gotten sick.
Right.
I really
Right.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that you guys had the pieces, and then again, those tangibles that you don't control, such as health. Just like you see your Portland Trailblazers right now, they're peaking at the right time with that backcourt that they have, and we could get into that. But I'm gonna tell you what, basketball is such a wonderful sport, and to think that you was a part of the elite league for 12 years, Brian, that it's a testament to your hard work and your mindset, and I know those are still carrying over, even though there are peaks and valleys in today's Brian Grant because of struggles and things that you adapt to or have to adapt to. But I still see you shining through with that karma and that aura that you have coming right through the camera right now, my man.
well, I appreciate it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that,
Yeah.
Sometimes you get caught up in, I don't want to say feeling sorry for yourself, but just
Yep.
whether it's a bad day or the wrong moment. Every moment is the right moment because it's the moment that God wants you in. And if it's bad,
Preach.
then he's teaching me some kind of lesson. If it's good, I am and supposed to be appreciative of it.
You
So,
know what? Talk about that. How has your faith helped you through this challenge or through this tribulation?
you know, my faith, I've always been a believer.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had Baptists were my mom's people, Methodist was my dad's. And the Methodists and the Baptists, they just don't mix for some reason. I don't know.
That's oil and water.
But the messaging was there at an early age. And, you know, I became a believer at a young age. But even being a believer doesn't mean that you're not going to be tempted. You know, if anything, it means you're going to have more temptation thrown at you, because the devil knows that you know what's going on. This isn't some play stuff. This is for real.
Amen.
So, you know, just like a lot of Christians, I've been on teams where there have been some solid Christian brothers. Like my first 2 years, Doug Lee, I played with Doug Lee, and he was a solid Christian. And then when I was in Miami, I played with LaFonso Ellis, and that is one solid brother. I mean, that brother is a good man. And I've been able to run across other Christian brothers, practicing Christians. And even though you do it, you still are going to have that temptation. You're still going to fall. I guess I started falling so much that I didn't think I deserved to be forgiven. And that's taking power away from God. And through this book and through letting things out and deepening my faith, you know, it's brought me 10 times closer than I've ever been to him.
Wow, BG, that right there is heartfelt, and I've got nothing but love for you to be able to share that, because it's not easy to talk about failures or times that you've tripped up. But again, you've done that, and you show it's okay to be human and make mistakes and try to learn from those mistakes and teach people from those mistakes. And I think that's a powerful message that you convey through the book. And it's something that it's making me reflect and be a better version of myself as well. So for that, BG, I thank you, because it's a wonderful character to be able to be vulnerable like that.
You know, I'm blessed to run it. I'm getting real tongue tied here, a little emotional, but
no, please.
You know, every time something seems to start getting heavy, like I told you, there's some things going on. My sister lost her, my nephew, and things. Not knowing what we were going to talk about, this is exactly what I needed to hear. It's exactly what I needed to talk about. And just God showing me how in control he is, and that my nephew is with my father who died a year ago.
Amen.
And his name was Thomas as well.
Wow.
And I'm just thankful. I'm grateful to the Lord. Thank you for this interview. And we're continuing, but I just heard something I need to hear.
Yeah, you know, it is. You've got such a message to deliver, and if people will take the time to read the book, there's a connectivity there, because you are vulnerable, and people can identify that. And when they identify to that, they connect, and you can lead, guide, and direct individuals, through your soul. And BG, you've done that, and it inspired me. And I'm not just saying that because you're on this show right now. I'm telling you, your words through this book reached out to me. And again, ladies and gentlemen, go to Amazon, get that book Rebound, where Brian Grant has shared some meaningful and heartfelt and purposeful lessons that I feel it will touch all of you when you take the time to read that. So I highly encourage it. Here in the last few minutes, BG, what lessons would you like to share with the viewers of this show and the listeners to the podcast? Because you've got so many nuggets to share. I mean, you hear about people going deep into their bag. I mean, go deep into your bag right now and spill your heart, for the viewers.
No matter what we do in life, a lot of times when we make mistakes, stumble and fall, we're always going to be given the ability to get back up.
Wow.
You're given that ability to get back up. God will forgive you if you ask him to, and you genuinely mean it and want it. He will forgive you. And I spent almost 12 years of my life not forgiving myself, but asking God to forgive me. How is God going to forgive me if I don't forgive myself?
Wow.
And this book really showed that to me. It showed it to Rick Bucher, who one day we were talking, I look over and he's tearing up. I was like, what's wrong with you? You don't even know, man. This book is going to help you so much. It's like your confession. It's like you're putting it out there. And he was right.
Wow.
I didn't know how much stuff I still had bound up in me. I thought, I'm forgiven, but you can't be forgiven if you're not going to forgive yourself.
Man, that's that right there, BG. That touches me, and thank you for sharing that, my man. Just know I'm a fan. I'm going to be a forever friend. I am here for you. I would love to get involved with your foundations when you have these other fundraisers and when you're doing things. If you're doing camps or something, please reach out to me. And again, I'm not just saying I'm a man of my word, just like you are. We're from the Midwest, and when we say something, our word is our bond. So, BG, please reach out to me. However I can help. I'm going to share this content. I believe in it, and I've got nothing but love for you, brother. And the fact that you were able to share this with us, I know you know a lot of great people. I mean, you're working with the Michael J. Fox and Muhammad Ali Foundation, with the Parkinsons, and I'm gonna tell you something, my man. You're touching so many lives right now that you have no idea about. And I pray for your strength to continue this journey, because I'm gonna tell you what, your best work is ahead of you, my friend.
I thank you for your friendship, and I thank you for providing a platform for me to be able to get this message out there. And like I said, you're doing great and wonderful things too in the Father's name. And I like I said, I'm thankful for the message I got from you today. I needed that. Thank you.
Well, BG, we're here for each other, my friend. And let's do this again real soon, because there's so much more we could share. And let's use this platform to do a part 2. But I pray with you. I pray for you. And I'm here for you. So please reach out to me, and don't hesitate, my friend. I think some great things can happen in the near future, collaborating together, my friend.
Thanks, Coach. I will do that. Definitely.
BG, nothing but love, brother. Thank you for being a guest on the Coach Scott Field Show. Ladies and gentlemen, again, share this content, share this message, connect and learn and empower yourself through these tools that Brian has shared for your toolbox. Because I'm going to tell you what, my man, you provided some wonderful, wonderful nuggets for everybody. God bless you, BG. I'm going to be in touch, and I'm going to send you a text here in just a minute, just to let you know that I'm with you, my brother. Let's share this journey together.
Definitely. Thank you. I'll wait for that text.
God bless you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Coach Scott Fields with another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. This has been a powerful, powerful message. It has been wonderful. And thank you so much, BG, for sharing and opening and connecting with these viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless. Have a great evening. And we'll see you again on another edition of the Coach Scott Fields Show. One love.
Bring it in. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production. Don't forget to subscribe to the Coach's YouTube channel. Like and follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have yourself dressed and ready to go in the locker room for the next exciting show coming soon. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production.